Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady. There are 3 more news stories waiting for us today, and the first of them will tell you what to do if your boss can't figure out that you quit your job a long time ago. I was fired 3 months after I quit. This all happened many moons ago when I was 16. My first job was a hot springs/pool as a lifeguard. The water park featured a few large hot tub pools, a cold pool, and 2 water slides where only one ever worked at any one time. I worked there during the winter when everything was open, including the slide. Outside of the one cold pool, there were many odd things about the job. One of which was that I was expected to sit outside in a little uninsulated shack, fully clothed with a coat on, and guard people's lives. I was never sure exactly what I would have done if someone would have gone under and needed me to go in. Another odd thing is that I was paid from a personal check from the manager. Never really understood that one. I worked there for minimum wage for one fall and winter. When springtime came, I was hired by another large pool that was much closer to my home for an actual lifeguarding job. Where this was my first job, my dad was trying to teach me how to be a gainfully employed person and a responsible individual. He said it was customary to provide 2 weeks' notice. He also said that 1 month notice was more appropriate if the job is one where there cannot go without my position. We decided that I would give 1 month notice since there were only 3 lifeguards and they wouldn't need to hire a replacement. I gave my notice in February and said I would work for 1 more month. After that date came and passed, I got a call from the manager who was upset that I hadn't come to work. I told him that my 1 month was past and that I had quit. He asked me to work a bit longer until they could find my replacement. The manager kept scheduling me and I kept working, but each time I ran into him, he wasn't always there in the evenings. I would remind him that I had quit. By May, he was still scheduling me, so I left him a note that said I wouldn't be coming in anymore and that I wouldn't be checking the schedule anymore. He called me the next Friday night, apparently a shift I was scheduled for, and chewed me out over not coming to work. He told me that if I wasn't responsible enough to work when he scheduled me, that he would have to fire me. I yelled back into the phone, "You can't fire someone who quit 3 months ago." He kept yelling at me and telling me how horrible of an employee I was and how I'll never be able to hold down a job as an adult. My dad was in the room and could hear every single word he said and finally took the phone from me and delivered a rebuke so satisfying that it belonged in a Liam Neeson movie. My dad's not someone that raises his voice, but he has this way of talking quieter that scares the crap out of you. He finished his talk by telling my long-since former manager that he would be driving out to the hot springs to finish their conversation. He never drove out. He thought it would be more painful on the guy, who was fairly young himself, to have to wonder when my dad was going to show up. Pro tip, for anyone in OP's position, they'll never find a replacement. And our second story. I'm not the train guy. Being self-employed and having to deal with different time zones, I tend to work mostly during the night. That means that my day ends when the nearby railway station welcomes its first commuters of the day. This railway station, while being a rather small town, has become a hub for connecting trains during the last decade. Every few days, I like to grab a coffee in the first coffee bar or pub that opens, 5 a.m., and buy a sandwich an hour later on my way home for when I wake up. It's a 5-minute walk for me if I go through the tunnel under the train tracks. Now, this tunnel can be completely desolate just to be flooded a minute later with people who need to get to another track to catch a connecting train. Sometimes people seem to be relaxed, other days it's a horde of wildlings storming through the tunnel. Which brings me to the coat I have. It's 20 years old, incredibly warm and incredibly ugly. I only wear it when it's really cold and very dark. Apparently it makes me look like a railway employee, especially combined with my warm/ugly cap. Every so often when I walk in that tunnel, someone will stop me and ask connection info. Never mind the big old screens. Next winter, the commuters became really nervous because they were working on the tracks in the station. Some tracks were closed, then open, then closed again. You get the idea. At the same time, the main and only hall of the station was being renovated and thus not open to the public. The schedule changed from day to day. A train that would normally arrive at track 4 would now arrive at track 6, or not arrive at all. It was a giant mess. So one day I was minding my own business, walking home with a sandwich I just bought, when a stampede came down the stairs to get to their connection and literally bumped into me. My sandwich ended up on the ground. Total loss. This was it. I was nice every time someone would stop me for info. I was nice every time to get out of their way. I was understanding every time someone bumped into me. But now I had enough. 2 days later, I'm on my way to get my coffee when I see a bunch of people running down the stairs again from track 2. This lady yells at me, "Which is the track to wherever the F-a-stan?" Without blinking, I reply, 11. She turns around and continues yelling, 11, it's 11, we need to go to the 11. And the whole group, like 15 to 20 people, follows her, still running. Imagine how running in a tunnel in formal clothing, i.e. high heels, sounds. Track 11 is at least 100 meters down the tunnel. I turn around, look at the screen, and see that their train is leaving at any moment on track 3. No way for them to make that. I chuckle and continue my way to the bar. The usuals there have a good laugh with my story, and after finishing my coffee, I head home, still smiling. What I didn't know is that the train to wherever the F-a-stan only comes in every other hour, and that's the only way to get there this early. So picture me walking down the tunnel with a big old smile on my face when all of a sudden, I see the crowd. The crowd that I sent to the wrong track. They are still standing around in the blistering cold. Seconds later, the lady that yelled at me earlier spots me, gives me this look where she wants to strangle me, then turns to her peers and says, "That's the a-hole that sent us to the wrong track." I wasn't really prepared for this. One tall guy walked up to me and asks, or actually commanded me, "Give me your name." Me, while thinking, go F yourself. Vasco? Nice to meet you. What's your name? TG, F you. I'm going to speak to your boss, the boss of this railway station. I'm going to report you. Me, whatever, dude. TG, you come with me. Me, another time. I'm going home to bed now. I've been working all night. TG, he's getting really mad now while a rather big crowd is forming around us. You sent us to the wrong track, and now we're all going to be 2 hours late. It's your job to know which train we need to take. So at this point, it was impossible for me to continue on my way because I was completely blocked. One of them apparently went to the station chief in his office and demanded him to come see us. So here's the thing, because this was in the months following the Paris attacks, we had 3 armed police officers in front of the railway station from 6 a.m. until the last train left. The chief, on his way to us, asked one of the police guys to come with us in case there was an incident. Of course, the chief knew I wasn't an employee when he saw me, and the mob became completely flabbergasted once he told them I was just a guy walking by. And the police officer asked me to talk to him in private. Police guy, you want to press charges against anyone? Me, against who and what for? PG, well, 'cause they were clearly harassing you. Me, well, my schedule ain't gonna change anytime soon, and I don't really fancy walking all the way around the railway station to get my sandwich. But on the other hand, having them miss the next couple of trains is an idea I fancy. Anything less dramatic? PG, who chuckles. Well, I can call in my colleagues and get them all transported to the police office where they'll have to give a statement. How about that? Me, sure thing. Aftermath. Took them about 5 transfers to get them all to the police office, and the last dude left at 5 p.m. I waited a couple of weeks before going under the tunnel again, and when I ran into them, a few stopped to apologize. One gave me a voucher for the sandwich bar a few days later. For some odd reason, I pictured this entire story taking place at the railway station from Harry Potter. But probably because it's the only train station I could think of. And our third story. Woman irate that multiple kinds of pretzels exist in different places calls manager on me. I just found this Reddit yesterday after being directed to it after I posted an etiquette question in 2 other places about what to say when being mistaken for a store employee. The big difference I see in most of the posts is that I'm a DSD vendor/pull-up, which is a person who stocks something in the store for a specific brand, but isn't employed by the store and typically has multiple stores to visit and typically a distinctly different uniform, if any uniform at all. I get easily 5 to 10 of these incidents a day and have easily a dozen stories of this nature that are real special. So I'll pick possibly my favorite. One of my route stops is a WM, which I also shop at, so I know where things are generally. This already irate lady storms over to me, clearly not noticing that my clothes do not match an employee's and only seeing that I'm putting things on the shelf. She demands I tell her where the pretzels are, because no one else will help her. Well, I don't work here, but I do shop here, and I know there are several places for them. What kind are you looking for? Just tell me where the pretzels are. Is that not clear enough? Well, do you want plain ones? You want chocolate-covered ones? You want flavored? The McDonald's up front sells big doughy pretzels. Just tell me where the pretzels are. Well, the chocolate-covered ones are over by the candy, on the other side of the store that way. Over that way? Customer service here is hideous. Except I don't work here, so your experience with me doesn't count. She storms off. Sometime later, she comes back with a manager pointing at me for not helping her. Manager looks at me, looks at lady, looks at me, looks at lady. Manager: he doesn't work for us, ma'am. People who work here wear a blue vest. What is it you are wanting to find? Just tell me where the pretzels are. Manager: well, we have multiple places. Do you want the hot and fluffy kind, chocolate covered, the plain salted kind? She finally just leaves the store. Manager and I both shrug and resume our regular tasks. Her brain must have exploded after two people working for two different companies gave the same answer to her. Well played. And thank you all for watching this video all the way through, and we'll see you on the next one.